So, here's the deal. Science fiction is one of those genres that can be anything. Sometimes it's spaceships and lasers, sometimes it's weird philosophical thought experiments, sometimes it's just vibes. And while the big blockbusters get all the attention, there's a whole layer of smaller, quieter, and often much stranger sci-fi films that slipped through the cracks. Movies you maybe heard of once, or maybe never at all, but absolutely deserve to be seen. Starting off at number 10, we have Coherence from 2013, and it's available on Prime Video and Apple TV. This is a film that proves you don't need a giant budget to completely mess with people's minds. Coherence is set almost entirely at a single dinner party where a group of friends gathers on the night a comet passes close to Earth. Everything starts out normal, then the universe bends a little.
Wait, what's the box?
That was at the other house.
Oh my god. Baby, what did you see?
Hugh, what did you see?
Strange things happen that shouldn't. People start noticing impossible coincidences, and the night spirals into paranoia. It's low budget, yes, but it's sharp, tense, and feels like a Twilight Zone episode stretched into something even darker. One of the most unsettling "what would you do?" sci-fi films ever.
I know where I come from, but where do all you zombies come from?
Moving on to number 9, we have Predestination, released in 2014, available on Hulu and Apple TV. If Coherence is about paranoia, Predestination is about paradox. This Australian film stars Ethan Hawke as a time-traveling government agent tasked with stopping crimes before they happen. But his latest mission takes him deep into a case that bends not just time, but identity itself. It's stylish, it's layered, and it's one of those movies that seems straightforward until you realize the rug is being pulled from under you. At its core, it's about fate, free will, and whether we're ever really in control of who we become. At number 8, we have Primer from 2004, available on Tubi and Apple TV. Here's the one that's almost a rite of passage for sci-fi fans. Primer is famous for being made on a shoestring budget around $7,000, yet it's one of the most complex time travel films ever put to screen. Two engineers, while tinkering in their garage, accidentally stumble onto a machine that lets them loop time. And instead of treating it like some flashy superhero power, the film grounds it in real-world consequences, math, and paranoia. It's dense, it's confusing, and honestly, you may need a notebook to keep up, but that's the charm. It feels like watching a real discovery spiral out of control, not some Hollywood fantasy. At number 7, we have The Man from Earth from 2007, available on Amazon and Apple TV. This is probably the most stripped-down movie on the list. No special effects, no car chases, no big spectacle. It's literally just people in a room talking. But the conversation? Mind-blowing. A professor reveals to his colleagues that he's not an ordinary man. In fact, he claims he's been alive for 14,000 years. The rest of the film is the group trying to figure out if he's telling the truth or if he's lost his mind. It's quiet, it's intellectual, and it'll, get you asking the kind of what-if questions that stick with you long after the credits. A perfect example of sci-fi that's powered entirely by ideas.
Together we will live forever.
Moving on to number 6. we have The Fountain, released in 2006, and it's available on Max and Apple TV. Darren Aronofsky doesn't really do safe movies, and The Fountain is his most ambitious project. It tells 3 interwoven stories across different timelines: a Spanish conquistador in the 1500s, a modern-day scientist racing to save his wife, and a lone traveler in deep space centuries into the future. All 3 stories circle around the same themes: mortality, love, and humanity's desperate search for meaning in the face of death. It's lush, surreal, sometimes confusing, but visually stunning and emotionally raw. Not your typical popcorn sci-fi, but more of a meditation dressed as one. At number 5, we have The Fall from 2006, available on Amazon and Apple TV. Now, The Fall isn't sci-fi in the strictest sense. It's more of a fantasy with surreal science fiction-like imagery, but it earns its spot here because of how wildly imaginative it is. Set in the 1920s, the film follows a stuntman who, while recovering in a hospital, befriends a little girl and begins telling her a sprawling, otherworldly story. Honestly, it's all about the visuals. That's what makes the story so incredible. Think wild landscapes, impossible-looking scenes, and a super dreamlike feel that messes with your head. A masterpiece nobody talks about that feels like a moving painting.
You know what I do when I have a bad dream? Close my eyes, and I think of something nice.
Moving on to number 4, we have Triangle, released in 2009. A staple of the hidden gem category, you can often stream it on Hulu, Prime Video, or free services like Tubi. If you liked the looping, puzzle box nature of Coherence, you will love Triangle. The film starts simply enough. Jess, a single mother of an autistic son, goes on a yachting trip with a group of friends. A freak storm hits, their boat capsizes, and they're left stranded in the ocean. Just when all hope seems lost, a massive, seemingly abandoned 1930s ocean liner appears out of the mist. They climb aboard, relieved to be saved, but they quickly realize something is terribly wrong. The ship is empty, but they're not alone. They feel an intense sense of déjà vu, as if they've been there before, and they find themselves trapped in a horrifying and violent time loop from which there may be no escape. It's a mind-bending horror slush sci-fi hybrid that is way, way smarter than it looks. We have The Signal, released in 2014. It's frequently found streaming on Max or available for rent on the usual platforms. This movie follows 3 MIT students, Nick, his girlfriend Haley, and their friend Jonah, and they are on a cross-country road trip. They get drawn into a tense online battle with a rival hacker known only as Nomad. They decide to track his signal to an abandoned shack in the middle of the Nevada desert to teach him a lesson. When they get there, something happens. Nick wakes up disoriented, alone in a pristine, sterile medical facility. He's being questioned by a man in a hazmat suit, Dr. Wallace Damon, who tells him he may have come into contact with an EBE, an extraterrestrial biological entity. The rest of the movie is a tense, paranoid thriller as Nick tries to understand where he is, what happened to his friends, and what exactly the signal was. The final reveal is an absolute jaw-dropper. And number 2, we have Another Earth, released in 2011. It's often available to stream on Hulu or for purchase on major digital retailers. This is a quiet, contemplative, and deeply emotional sci-fi film. It's more about the science of the human heart than it is about space travel. The premise is simple but profound. On the night a duplicate planet, an exact mirror of our own, appears in the sky, a brilliant young astrophysics student named Rhoda has a tragic accident that changes her life forever. 4 years later, riddled with guilt, she learns of an essay contest to win a ticket to travel to this Earth too. Seeing it as a chance for a clean slate, a way to see if there's a better version of herself out there, she becomes obsessed. The film is a powerful character study about guilt, forgiveness, and the choices we make, using this massive, world-changing sci-fi concept as a backdrop for a very intimate human story. And finally, at number 10, we have Moon, released in 2009. You can usually rent this one on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and other digital stores. We come to Moon, directed by Duncan Jones. This is a modern classic of the genre. Sam Rockwell gives an incredible solo performance as Sam Bell, an astronaut who is the sole employee at a lunar mining base. His 3-year contract is almost up, and he can't wait to get home to his wife and daughter. His only companion is the base's AI, Gertie, voiced by Kevin Spacey. As the end of his lonely tenure approaches, Sam's health starts to deteriorate, and he begins having strange visions. After a near-fatal accident out on the lunar surface, he makes a discovery that forces him to question his own sanity, his identity, and the true nature of his mission. It's a brilliant, thoughtful, and deeply moving film that feels like a throwback to the classic character-driven sci-fi of the 70s. So, that's the list. 10 hidden sci-fi gems that may not have billion-dollar budgets or theme park rides, but still stand tall as some of the most thought-provoking original stories in the genre. They'll challenge you, they'll stick with you, and some of them might just change the way you think about life, time, and the universe.